What's up? Welcome back to another edition of DBSN Overtime. I'm JD Lowe.
And I'm Eli Baxter. We've got a Halloween special for you today. I mean, not nothing new. What are we talking about today, JD?
We got lots of the same. MLB postseason wrapping up, NBA season getting to a start, NHL season continues underway, and some more MLS news as well.
Yep. And we're going to start out with the NFL Week 8 review. We're going to start out with the Falcons and the Buccaneers, a rematch of earlier in the season. The Falcons came on top again, 31-26 against the Bucs.
Yeah, Browns fans are a little probably unhappy still with Baker Mayfield leaving the team and doing so well with the Bucs. He threw for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Threw for 2 interceptions as well, but still a good game.
Yep. Kirk Cousins, though, he had a great game. 4 touchdowns on the day with 279 yards in the air. 0 interceptions as well.
And then we turn to the Colts, who took on the Texans, and they would lose to the Texans 23-20. Good game from Ohio State former QB C.J. Stroud, as well as running back Joe Mixon, who'd run for 102 yards.
Yeah, a little controversy out of the game. Anthony Richardson, the QB for the Colts, took himself out of the game due to, he cited tiredness.
Yeah.
So little questions there.
Yep.
Joe Flacco will start next week for the Colts in replace of Richardson.
Yep.
And then the Bills, they demolished the Seahawks.
Yeah.
31-10 in Seattle, Washington. What happened for that one?
Another big game from the Bills. They turned to 6-2 on the season. Another good game from star QB Josh Allen. He'd throw for 283 yards. Running back James Cook also had a good game there, run for 111 yards, and he'd get 2 touchdowns.
Yep. And then a crazy game in Washington D.C., the capital. The Commanders, in a rookie battle, the Commanders came out on top due to a Hail Mary, and we're going to send it to the Hail Mary right now.
And it's going to be getting longer by the second. You're all the way back at the 30-yard line. Now you can step into it. Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line. And the ball is caught.
Yeah, so lots of interesting NFL news there. And we turn to the rest of the week's scores. After starting 5-0, the Vikings would finally drop a game, or 2 straight games, and they'd fall to the Rams, the now 3-4 Rams after winning that game. The Chiefs would beat the Raiders, and they'll stay unbeaten. They just stay hot now. They won 27-20, and the Lions would dominate the Titans. They'd win 52-14, a huge score for the Lions.
Yep. And then obviously the only remaining unbeaten still is the Chiefs. They're going to have a tough game next week, though, against the Buccaneers. So maybe going to drop one, but probably not with the injured Bucs roster.
Should be a good one, though.
Yep. And then we're going to head to Week 9 preview. We're going to start out with the Broncos and the Ravens. Bears versus the Cardinals. Marvin Harrison, former Ohio State wide receiver. Lions versus Packers, a big one. Lions are 6-1 and the Packers are 6-2. And then the Buccaneers versus the Chiefs on Monday Night Football.
And then we turn to the other games of the week. So bye-week teams were the Steelers and the 49ers. So obviously fantasy fans there with how Steelers QB has been doing, maybe unhappy with that. And then the 49ers, Brock Purdy and them have been doing good too. So.
Yep. And then we're going to send it to the College Football Week 9 review. We're going to start out with number 1 Oregon destroying the number 20 ranked Illinois, 38-9.
Yeah, they stay hot there. That was a game that I thought would have been a little bit closer, but a dominant Oregon. They end up playing dominant too, and they come out with a pretty wide margin.
Yep, Dylan Gabriel threw for 3 touchdowns there that day. And then a close game, number 5 Texas taking on the number 25 ranked Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt did fall short, 27-24 in the end, but Quinn Ewers, he threw for 3 touchdowns and did throw for 2 interceptions.
Yeah, good comeback game for Ewers, who was taken out of the game last week. So probably happy to get back on the winning side of the ball.
Yep. And then a big one, number 8 LSU, falling short to their rival, the Texas A&M Aggies. 38-23. Texas A&M now remains the only undefeated SEC team in SEC play.
Yeah, it was a fun game. QB Nussmeier, he'd have a little bit of a rough game, throwing for 3 interceptions.
Yep. And then another rough game was the Navy midshipmen. They lost to Notre Dame they got destroyed. 51
Yeah.
to 14, 6 total turnovers for the midshipmen
Yeah.
on the day. So rough way to lose their undefeated
Yeah.
record.
Yeah, coming in undefeated, coming in finally ranked, finally as a ranked team. I thought it might be a little closer of a matchup. I thought they might show better, but yeah, rough game for them.
Another rough game was the number 21 ranked Missouri. They got held to 0 points against Alabama. Alabama put up 34 points on them. Jalen Milroe had a great comeback game as he rushed for 2 touchdowns on the day.
Yep. And now we turn to the updated rankings for college football. The top 4 stays intact, no movement there. Notre Dame and Texas and BYU, or Texas A&M, sorry, and BYU would all move into the top 10. LSU, after their loss, would fall from 8 to 16, and Washington State and Colorado would enter the top 25.
Yep, Deion Sanders bringing his team into the top 25 again after doing that last year as well.
Yeah.
And then we're going to move up into a big change in the updated Heisman rankings. These are the betting odds. Right now, Dylan Gabriel of Oregon is in first with plus 230. And then Travis Hunter is from Colorado, the two-way player, is closely following him with plus 270. And then the QB from Miami, Cam Ward, is closely behind with plus 300. And then Ashton Jeanty, who has led it the past many weeks, has fallen out due to a little rough game against UNLV, but still, I think he could still make his way back up there.
Yeah, Travis Hunter of Colorado, he had a historic game this past weekend. He'd end up getting the Player of the Week for offense and defense after really solid performance. So he moves up to second on the Heisman rankings.
Yep. And then we're going to go to the national championship odds. A little change. The only difference is Oregon replaces Texas. Oregon is now plus 450 odds to win the national championship. And then we're going to move into our picks of the week. We're going to start out with the big one.
Yeah.
Ohio State fans are going to need a win here against Penn State in Happy Valley. Number 4 Ohio State taking on the number 3 Penn State. Who do you have for this one?
I'm going to have to go with Ohio State. I haven't seen them lose 2 in a season for a little bit here, and I think they can hold on. Go with Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree. I think after a rough week last week against Nebraska, it's gonna wake them up. They know they need to win this game if they want to keep their chances at the national championship alive. So I think it'll be a good game for them, and I think they come out on top. And then Duke taking on the number 5 ranked and undefeated Miami. Who do you have for this one?
Miami still looks very hot, staying undefeated. Obviously, they got a great QB back there. I have to go with Miami.
I agree with this one. I'm gonna go with Miami. Duke did lose to Georgia Tech and SMU. SMU is ranked now, but the loss to Georgia Tech kind of set them back a little bit. And then the number 18 Pittsburgh taking on the number 20 ranked SMU. Who do you have for this one?
I think undefeated still. Obviously, SMU obviously has 7-1, still a good record. But I have to go with Pitt though.
I'm gonna go with number 20 ranked SMU here. I think both teams have played really well. Pittsburgh last week, obviously, destroying Kyle McCord, the former Ohio State quarterback, returning 3 pick sixes. But I'm going to go with SMU. I think they've showed a lot of heart recently, so I'm going to go with SMU.
And then we turn to Minnesota, who'll take on Illinois. Minnesota currently 5-3, and Illinois 6-2. Who do you have?
I'm going to go with Illinois, even though they lost last week. I think they're going to bounce back at home against the Golden Gophers.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Should be a good game, though.
Yep. And now we're going to send it to our weekly segment of Worldwide Wacky Sports. We're going to have Parkour Tag with John.
Now scrambling through the mountain, and now under the ridge to the front line. The gap quickly closing as McVay goes to the floor. He's got 9 seconds left to catch Rendell, who tiptoes along the back wall, takes a trip, a hurdle through the mountain, and what a tag by McVay! It didn't seem possible, and yet he did it.
And it'll come down to this for Olo.
Well, I mean, I don't think I would be doing that. Maybe doing that in my own house sometime, but we're going to move to the World Series update. It has come to a conclusion as the LA Dodgers have beaten the New York Yankees 4-1. It was a bit of a Halloween spooks there for the Yankees fans. It was a very high-scoring game yesterday, 7-6 in favor of the Dodgers.
Yep, and now we turn to NHL news. In Columbus news, the Blue Jackets are still off to a strong start on the year. They're currently sitting at 5-3 on the season after a strong 2-0 win against the New York Islanders last night. Goalie Elvis Merzlikins coming in off of 2 seasons where probably underperformed in comparison to what he's being paid. He's coming off of 2 really good games. Last night getting a shutout, beat the Islanders. And in similar Blue Jacket news, Connor McDavid, when he would face the Blue Jackets last Monday night, arguably the best player in hockey, ended up getting a lower body injury. He'd leave the game, and it was reported earlier yesterday, that he's going to have to be out 2 to 3 weeks with an ankle injury. Not sure if it's a sprain or a break or what exactly is going on there, but lots of fans nervous that it might be something worse, but glad to hear he'll only be out 2 to 3 weeks. And then probable Hall of Fame goalie Marc-Andre Fleury would take on his former team, the Pittsburgh Penguins. He'd end up winning 5-3. The soon-to-be 40-year-old won 3 cups with the Penguins. So this was probably his last game against the Penguins as he's planning to retire after this year. So just a really good, heartfelt moment for them. He got a standing ovation after the game. End up, standing with some of his former teammates. So just a good time there for Marc-Andre.
Yep. And then we're going to move into the NBA news. Cleveland Cavs, they're off to a hot start. They're 5-0 after beating the LA Lakers 134-110 last night. LeBron made his return back to Cleveland, and Bronny, he got his first NBA points in Cleveland.
Yeah, so Bronny, obviously, a lot of fans speculating might not be worth the playing time or might not be worth a roster spot, but glad to see him getting points there and probably making it worth it.
Yep. And then following close up are the reigning champions, the Boston Celtics. They fell last night into a close one in overtime to the Indianapolis Pacers, 135-132. So still early in the season, 4-1. They're looking to go back-to-back.
Yeah.
And then in the Western Conference, the OKC Thunder are atop the Western standings as they're undefeated, and they beat last year's #1 pick Victor Wembanyama 105-83.
And the Golden State Warriors, coming off a win last night, they moved to a 4-1 on the year, and they follow close behind Oklahoma City after winning against the Pelicans 104-89 last night.
Yep. And then we're going to switch it to the MLS playoffs, where MLS playoffs for the first round is best of 3 series. So all of these games, all the teams that have lost are going to have another chance this week later on. To start out, Inter Miami, they beat Atlanta United 2-1. LA Galaxy destroyed the Colorado Rapids 5-0, and then Orlando City got a win. They beat Charlotte FC 2-0, and then LAFC, they won in a close one against Vancouver Whitecaps 2-1. FC Cincinnati, the other Ohio team, they beat the New York City FC 1-0. Seattle Sounders and Houston Dynamo, it was a close one. They went into PKs at the end with a regular time of 0-0. But the Seattle Sounders did come out on top 5-4 in PKs. And then a sad one for Columbus Crew fans, they lost 0-1. Only the 6th time all season they have been held to 0 points in the game. So, but looking to bounce back against Red Bulls on Saturday. And then Real Salt Lake and Minnesota United, close one. It was 0-0 at the end. They went to PKs, but Minnesota United did get the away win 4-5.
Yeah, hectic stuff there in the MLS. And now we transition to Ian with another edition of Ohio Sports Roundup.
Thanks, Eli and JD. On Sunday, the Cleveland Browns host the Los Angeles Chargers at Huntington Bank Field on CBS at 1 p.m. as the Browns look to win back-to-back games for the first time this season. Meanwhile, the Cincinnati Bengals take on the Las Vegas Raiders in Cincinnati at 1 p.m. on Fox. On Saturday, College Game Day makes its way to Pennsylvania as the Penn State Nittany Lions host the Ohio State Buckeyes in a massive showdown, as the Buckeyes look to gain momentum after a loss to Oregon in a close win over Nebraska. Last night, the Blue Jackets took down the Islanders 2-0. The Jackets host the Jets tomorrow night at 7 and head to the nation's capital to take on the Capitals on Saturday at 5. In the NBA, yesterday the Cleveland Cavs continued their unbeaten start to the season, defeating the Los Angeles Lakers 134-110. Tomorrow at 7, the Cavs take on the Magic, and on Saturday, they face the Milwaukee Bucks at 8 p.m. And finally, the Columbus Crew play in a must-win playoff match on Sunday at 4:30 p.m. in New York as they take on the Red Bulls. That's it for this week's Ohio Sports Roundup. This has been Ian Miller. Now, back to the guys.
Well, thank you, Ian. That's all we're going to have for you guys today on our Halloween edition of DBSN Overtime. Hopefully, none of your teams catch the spooks in these upcoming games. Don't want that. I'm Eli Baxter.
And I'm JDL. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.